Great. Let me start. Thank you everyone for joining. Good evening and a very, very warm welcome. I'm Dilip Punjabi. I lead the enterprise business for Mixpanel in India. As a leading product analytics company, we are extremely focused on helping product teams rapidly innovate and succeed in the marketplace. Um, and and from this objective stems our passion of exploring innovative ways of contributing to the community of product managers globally. Today, in collaboration with Product Tank Pune, we bring you a unique webinar where we deep dive into how product teams in India are thinking and how they use data and build better products and drive business growth. Great. Before we get started, I wanted to go through a few housekeeping items. So if you have any questions, you can submit them at any point of time during the session in the Q&A function, which is in Zoom. So this webinar is being recorded, so everyone will receive a link via email within the next 24 hours, along with the report for you that you can back and share it with your teams. Lastly, all participants will be muted upon joining. So if you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, I'd highly encourage you to check the settings tab in the bottom of your screen. With that said, I'd like to hand it over to Amit, who is a seasoned product manager, organizer of Product Tank Pune, and also one of the authors of this report. And with that, I'd request Amit to kick us off with the survey results.
Thank you so much, Dilip. Thank you so much, Serene, and everyone here for joining. It's amazing to meet all of you and discuss what are the metrics which are important to product managers. We are in a new way of doing business. Product management is growing, and that's the reason Product Tank Pune and Mixpanel thought that we would do a survey of how product managers behave, what are the metrics they look at, and what is it that is most important to them. Mixpanel conducted a similar survey for the global audience, and this is a unique take on the specific India audience. Our agenda today involves talking about the survey results and then panel discussion followed by a Q&A. So let me start by sharing with you the survey results. Before we do that, let me talk about the authors. Along with me, Naveen Sarwarpu has been an author of the survey. Satyavati, she is also a product manager and a Product Tank Pune organizer. This survey would not have been possible without the efforts of Serene Ho. She's the APIC marketing lead at Mixpanel. Serene has been, I would appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Serene has been a backbone of this survey and case study, not only helping us identify the questions, working with the team day in and day out, and diligently to ensure that the case study sees the light of the day, and then we are able to do a survey, do this meetup or a webinar. So thank you, Serene. Thank you to everyone who's come here on a Friday evening in Pune in India, and late evening in Singapore and other part of the world for joining us. It's a pleasure to host you and talk about what matters. Before diving in the survey again, we had 165 product managers and leaders participate in the survey. It included major cities of Bangalore, Pune, Chennai, Mumbai, New Delhi, and Hyderabad. We primarily thought of looking at folks from SMBs to large enterprises in uh, product management. Most of our product managers were also, some of our product managers were also from startups. When we surveyed, we were finding people from consumer tech, retail, e-commerce, financial services, uh, and media and entertainment. So as to say, the survey has been uh, with a wide range of audience across major domains and industries. This has helped us to get a good sample size of what we do, and we hope that the results are fair uh, and depict the depict the overall product management ecosystem in India. Uh, the three key areas which we have spoken or which we have thought of during the survey has been the data which has been used for to make product decisions. That's an important aspect, along with common metrics and questions uh, and barriers and challenges to product managers like you, like me, and like all of us. So that's more about how we chose to survey and the mechanism behind it. Interestingly, we find that while we think that most of the product management is concentrated around Pune, Bangalore, and Mumbai, these three cities tend to be the most uh, preferred destination for product companies. But we are also seeing a lot of companies and product management uh, being practiced in New Delhi, Chennai, Hyderabad, and a few smaller towns. What this means is that product management is now gaining traction across India, and companies of all sizes are hiring product managers. This could also mean for us that because most of the survey respondents were from Product Tank Pune, Pune has a sizable share of product managers. However, Bangalore is still the Silicon Valley of India, followed by Mumbai. The companies which are hiring for product managers are all sizes and industries. Mhm. Not only there are companies which have more than 1,000 people, there are companies of smaller size, 1 to 10 people as well, hiring product managers. My take on this is product management is becoming a necessary occupation. Product managers are at core of delivering uh, products, and companies of all sizes see that it's an important uh, trait and to be in an organization. Most of the companies have been B2B software and SaaS, B2B software companies who need product management for probably their different business lines, and they have enterprise customers, which is why they need a lot of product managers. But companies around edutech, health tech have also been hiring a lot of product managers in is what we've seen. Now, let us talk a brief about the data being used by product teams and how they use it. So the product teams have been using uh, data for a lot of purposes. But then and here what we've tried to do is measure that data along with the global peers. So teams have relied on the internal feedback from sales, marketing, and leadership for what kind of data to be used. We have also seen that most of our respondents use some data, but there was a lot of difference in the way they use it. The product data usage has been consistent by the analytics solution and companies are looking at what competition is doing. One thing which we found interesting here is the Indian counterparts have been not talking a lot about how competition is using data. Whereas as compared to the global peers who've been looking at a lot at the competition. I feel this could be because a lot of our product managers uh, work with sales team who might be using competitive data or competition data. But then this is an opportunity for us to increase a competitive intelligence for the product managers. In the Indian counterparts also rely less on survey, uh, which we found unusual because there are a lot of surveys happening. However, this could be because of we using other type of data to understand our customers. Moving to metrics that matter. So while we see that a lot of product managers are asking questions, product managers are a chatty lot, and they should be, and they ask a lot of questions about data. The top question, which is impacting most of the product managers, is which of my feature launches made an impact? Every one of us wants to know what is it that is helping our feature launch, our product launch make an impact. What we found interesting is that what are the more popular features that has been ranked 3 uh, in our survey results. Also, we saw that the top 2 questions are similar to what the global leaders have been doing. Now, when we move to the matrix, the most important metric product managers in India consider is revenue, as opposed to retention by the global peers. This is a good sign. As a product manager, when I launch my product, I would like to know how much revenue it makes. We feel that this could also be because most of the Indian companies, product companies, have grown bootstrapped, and they are conscious about the revenues they make. So that's been a very interesting metrics to see, and as per the global, the retention is the topmost metrics. What is interesting is we would have thought that activation would be an important metric for Indian product managers. However, that was ranked low, and only about 30% people said that activation matters to them. So that's an interesting take on how what are the different metrics that matters to product teams. This is also because of the large number of new products which have come up and require PM need to be in a price sensitive, PMs are in a price sensitive market. Now, one of the most important metrics here for B2B software was NPS, and activation was the lowest. Across all, we could see that activation was low. As compared to the global audience who thought that retention was the highest, NPS has been one of the most important metric which product managers tackle. This has been again consistent to our findings earlier that revenue has been a growth driver for most of the product companies. Moving ahead, metrics are being measured. Here we looked at what are the difficulties product managers face while measuring the metrics. So the organizations are measuring metric, but then we saw that a lot of product managers are facing some issues. However, this has been lesser than the global product managers, who feel that 30%, 38% of them feel that they are not able to measure the metrics. One interesting take which we see is that either the product ecosystem is new in India, and we might want to know what are the other metrics which can be measured, or we have other teams who are measuring the metrics for us. Because a lot of people in B2B software, 27% of them face challenge in measuring the metrics. We see that, okay, so here's the poll. So I would like to now ask about how often do you review whether your metrics are the right metrics? So we have a lot of saying that they're able to review the metrics only once a year, and 4 times a year, 9%. And a lot of our product managers, as we see, are able to do it on an ad hoc basis. I see that's an alarming thing, an alarming trend which needs to be probably addressed. Maybe we could address this in our Q&A and panel. So let's talk in brief about the barriers, challenges, and blind spots which most of product managers face while building products and while measuring the metrics. The topmost challenges which we see is that product managers do not have access to 40 data which we need. Now, this is an interesting take, because in the earlier question, we found that product managers said they were okay to, only 20% of them said that they are not able to measure the metrics. But here we see 43% saying that they do not have data. And this is something we would want the audience to tell what is their take on this result. We also see that the global peers have 47% of them mentioned that they were not able to have access to the data. This could be because we do not have right tools, or this could be because I feel there are other teams who are measuring the data, and this could also be because the data is scattered for a product, and teams have difficulty accessing it in a single place. However, what I also found least important is data experts are too busy to help me. That's probably a common issue everyone faces about different departments collaborating. So the top barrier is the size. Both for small and medium businesses, it is access to the data, followed closely by the analytics tools, which are not there. Some people use GA, some people use other tools. However, we're seeing that product management needs newer set of tools because the current set are not designed sometimes to look at the data which we want it to be. But for the large enterprises who have bigger teams, yes, the data experts seem to be too busy to help them. So thank you all. This is what I had as part of the case study. Now we would like to move to the panel discussion moderated by Naveen. Naveen is a product manager and an organizer with Product Tank Pune. Naveen?
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Amit, for presenting the survey results to the group. Uh, as Amit said, we are moving to the next section, which is a panel discussion. And I'll be moderating this panel discussion today. On our panel today, we have Love Kshitiz Suryavanshi. He is an experienced product manager and also an organizer for Product Tank Mumbai. Love Kshitiz has been creating web, mobile, and API products throughout his career and regularly speaks at conferences about consumer psychology. He's joining us from Mumbai today. Welcome, Love Kshitiz. Uh, our next panelist, Saurabh Ahuja, who is a senior manager growth at Flipkart, who is responsible for user growth and Flipkart video. Before joining Flipkart as senior manager growth, Saurabh has worked at several top B2C companies like Hotstar and Vodafone in product management and product marketing. Welcome, Saurabh. And of course, we have our organizer for Product Tank Pune as the third panelist, who is Amit Godbole. Um, so with that said, let me start with the discussion. So some of the rules that we have, if you have questions, we will take it in the end. So feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section. There's a tab for Q&A. You can type in your questions and we'll take those at the end. All right. So my first question, which is, before we dwell into the metrics and talk about what Amit has already revealed and reasons for why that has happened, I wanted to understand um, what is the latest trend in product management in India? How mature have we become as a theme product management in India? And what are the key differences that you see between India and globally? What do you see? Love Kshitiz?
Sure. Thank you, Naveen. So see, as what I believe, like most of the PM roles in India are basically glorified by the organizations. So either we see sometimes they are like project management opening or like a business analyst opening, but just to get a better candidate or just to shortlist some high quality candidates, these roles are basically glorified as a PM. Unlike after joining the organization, they are doing the actual task which is supposed to be performed by the product managers.
Sure.
So
Saurabh, your thoughts?
I have some better take on this.
Thanks, Naveen. Hi, everyone. I think one of the major differences that you will see in India and across globally, you'll find that product managers across the globe, they are generally coders who have done a few years of engineering and then move into product management. While in India, you'll see a lot of MBAs and engineers who are non-computer science engineers move into product management. So that is one major difference. While the ecosystem is still evolving, I think Indian product management has still a lot of catching up to do with the global peers.
Great. Amit, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree to what Lakshit says, and echo similar thoughts.
Okay. Similar question, but then a different context to it. We have audience who are doing different roles under the umbrella of product. And these roles are, some of them are BAs, some of them are PM, some of them are POs, some of them are PAs. What's the difference between, according to you, what's the difference, major difference between these roles, which have similar kind of responsibilities, kind of overlap? Are these different names given to the same role, or do they have a substantial difference between them? Saurabh?
I think, as I said, product management as a role in India is still in a very nascent stage. It's still to evolve. These are more roles you'll find in the global MNC organizations, where these are very distinct roles. The benefit that is there in the Indian ecosystem at this point on these different roles is that if someone is ambitious enough, no matter what the job description is, they can just step into any of these shoes and deliver in the benefit of the organization.
Okay, great. And Lavshitej, you want to add anything to that?
Sure. So I believe, see, the role of product owner is majorly delivering a product. I mean, or managing a sprint. Most of the time, if you're not armed with the data or any data tools, so you are much more like acting like a product owner instead of a product manager. And this is the scenario I think which I've believed most of the product managers in early stage companies are not armed with the proper tools. I mean, how they are supposed to perform the actual role of product managers, right? So even if you are joining an early stage startup or mid stage startup, I mean, just ask yourself, like, how many of us are actually using the paid tools? Because in most of the cases, the free tools are not sufficient enough to gather right type of insight to take a proper decision. So I think this is another landscape which is missing from the Indian product management ecosystem.
Great. I think that those are great points. Just to add, I mean, just a follow-up question on that. What, according to you, is that one area within product management where you feel that Indian PMs have excelled or have edge over the global product managers? Lavshitej?
So I mean, to contradict to Saurabh's point, like the most of the PMs are coming from after doing an MBA. But again, I have seen like a good set of PMs who are joining as a product manager or who are starting their career as a product manager after MBA, but they still have some kind of coding background. I think somewhere we have mastered the skill of product engineering, how to engineer product in the right way, and again at a very high pace they are able to reskill themselves. I mean, if you see the product management landscape in India, I mean, so since my first job at First Cry until today, in the past 7-8 years, I have seen that the product managers are able to reskill themselves as per the industry. I mean, the person whom I met somewhere in 2012, 2013 was working in a completely different industry, and today he has switched 2 or 3 jobs and working in a completely different industry, and he's doing well. Right? So I think we are able to reskill ourselves at a very good pace. So even if you consider the type of startups are coming, like if 2010 was the era of e-commerce, 2012, 13 was the era of like online cab booking, then 15, 16 was majorly food tech, then fintech, now gaming or short videos. So these are the senior product leaders are basically the same leaders who worked in e-commerce 7-8 years back and now working with the short video format of product. So I think the people are able to, or the product managers in India are able to reskill themselves at a very good pace, at a very high pace.
Okay, great. Ability to reskill, that's a great point. Saurabh, your thoughts?
I think a couple of points. One is that the product managers, the stakeholders around them in India are just on the technical stakeholders. I think are like, I don't have words to say, but Indian engineers are much better and they are known for their skills across the world. So that just empowers the product manager to deliver the kind of things in a much shorter time and bring their vision to reality. So that is one. Two, I think a lot of people in the internet space come from an engineering background or a very similar background. People from tier 1 and metro cities who have done engineering or an MBA. So they have very similar stakeholders around. We have very similar stakeholders around us, which enables for better collaboration, better thinking, and not without too much conflicts. We are able to deliver much faster. Yeah.
Okay. I think those are great points again. So with this, we have set the context as to how we see product management in India and what's the trend and where we excel, where we lack. Let's go to the metrics that we have discussed, right? So we collected these data points and compared with global product management theory. So we found that Indian product teams, unlike their global counterparts, tend to use competitive data and survey data a lot less. What can be the reasons for that? Saurabh, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll start with the survey part. Competition, I'm not sure, because the places I've worked in, competition data is very strongly tracked, while the authenticity of that data is always questioned. But we definitely have been very closely tracking competition. Coming to the survey part, I think India is such a diverse country and the consumers are spread uh, across different places, and they're very, very different from each other. So whenever you roll out a survey, uh, you need that many more responses to be able to make a decision basis that, because to be able to reach statistical significance, you need that many more number of responses. And collecting those responses again becomes a difficult task and adds to the cost. So yeah, I think that makes this part of research a little difficult compared to other tools available.
Lakshitesh, you have same thoughts or anything different?
I think the tracking, the use of competitive intelligence data may vary from product to product or company to company. Because in one of my past role, we worked on building a CI tool, a competitive intelligence tool. And we were struggling to find a first paying customer for 5 to 6 months. And whenever our sales team used to pitch for the CI tool, we find that the people are least interested in knowing or in gathering the competitive intelligence information, right? Uh, and based on that, so that they can build their roadmaps or they can twist their roadmap. Because once you are armed with this kind of insights, I mean, it will basically help you to avoid costly mistakes. It can help you to predict the future strategies of your competitors. So maybe the things are true in case of B2C companies, but if they are like B2B companies or a SaaS company who is focusing on large market, but still I think they are liking with the CI, competitive intelligence data.
Okay, great. Just a
I would
reminder.
like to have a take on that. Sorry,
Sure.
Naveen. So competitive intelligence is very important, especially if you are a startup and you are the first product manager. Not having the right competitive intelligence might not give your startup the right growth, and probably even lead to the early startup death or early product death. So competitive data has to be tracked. Why companies are not tracking it in India is could be that they are using some other measures to understand their customer. This could be through uh, applications. This could be understanding other methods to collect customer data, uh, and not rely on competitive intelligence. However, yes, competitive intelligence is a key when you want to grow and scale in a market, especially like India.
Okay. So Amit, I'll hold you for another second and ask you the second question that I have, which is around the metrics, right? So it was clearly evident that when we interviewed and surveyed these product managers in India, they felt or they believed revenue is the top metric that needs to be tracked. And but when we compared this with global counterparts, revenue didn't even come close to our third highest followed or tracked metric, right? So they followed retention as their primary metric. So what can be the reason that India has revenue as their key metric, and whereas global follows something else? One of the
This is a
possibilities that we could think of was India could be a price sensitive market where revenue drives business, and that's why probably that's the key metric to follow. What are your thoughts?
Yes, Naveen. Well, I would say India is a price sensitive market, but if you can price everything right, there are customers who would want to buy it. Uh, Revenue being a top target for Indian PMs is because we are very new to the product ecosystem. Products have recently started coming out of India and being successful. We've got Freshworks. We had the first wave with Flipkart. Uh, Saurabh is from there. And then we had the Freshworks and the Zohos. Now, these products have mostly been bootstrapped. And here, having revenue as your top metric would not only make you survive in the market, but also give you a longer runway. Uh, the VC ecosystem is building up, and we are seeing companies investing in startups, and that is what is would reflect companies to go aggressively after acquisition or retention strategy. In absence of that ecosystem, it is revenues, which is what product managers must drive through to have long run products and successful products. So yeah, that's what I feel.
Sure. Saurabh, Lavshitesh, you want to add anything?
So, and there will be a couple of more factors because of which we are highly focused on the revenue. One of them could be like, see, most of the PM roles are basically available in VC funded companies. So when the first wave of VC funded companies started hiring the PMs, right, and they were focusing on the acquiring the customers. Now, these companies are already entered into the matured stage of product life cycle. And now it's a high time for them to start focusing on their revenue. So this could be one of the reasons where these PMs are tracking the revenue aggressively. Second, I believe that for the most of the companies, I mean B2B companies, the variable component salary of PM are basically linked to the revenue that product is generating. This is another strong reason because of the product managers are tracking revenue aggressively.
All right. I have a follow-up question on that, actually. And Dilip, Surin, feel free to chime in with your thoughts because you've also conducted this global survey. You would have ideas or inputs from them as well, right? The question I have is, with this pandemic in place, how can we anticipate that the metrics that people are tracking would change over a period of time globally and in India as well? So yeah, Saurabh, you can take that and then.
Yeah, I think in product managers in India have had the luxury of the market always growing. We have always seen the internet market growing year over year and at an exponential rate. Today, in the unfortunate situation that we are in, that growth has now stalled down, and now acquiring a new customer is not that easy because the purchasing power of the new internet users who are being added into the ecosystem is not as much as it used to be. So now what I see happening now as we speak and going forward is that people starting to appreciate and focus more on their loyal customers who are giving them value, and focus a lot more on building those retention levers and loyalty much more than ever, because yeah, as I said, new customers will become that much more difficult to get in the future.
So would we see that Indian PMs would also track retention as one of the key metrics in coming times? Is that
I
what
believe,
you're?
yes. We have already started doing that, and we'll see a lot more of that happening. I foresee that.
Great. Dilip, Sirin, you want to add anything? What you figured out from global surveys or interviews with the other product managers?
I think what we're seeing is very similar to the trend on the lines of what Saurabh actually mentioned, and we are seeing that across the board actually. Well, apart from that, like that's the big shift I would say that we are seeing.
Right. Great. Another aspect of, I also wanted to talk about B2B companies. So in both India and global surveys, it turned out that B2B software companies had the hardest time measuring their metrics effectively. So what do you think might be the cause for this? And how would you advise B2B software companies to change in order to improve on this? Lavshitesh, you want to start on this?
Yeah, sure. So see, when we say a B2B product, I think again the B2B products are divided into multiple types. Right? If we create an analogy with the size of animal, so let's take an example of elephant, right? So elephant is like huge in size, and now there comes a B2B product which is catering to a larger enterprise. So if you are a product manager who is building a product for a large enterprise, you might have 4, 5, or 6 customers in a year, but you will not have access to the data uh, to understand how they're either using your product or what kind of metrics you should track, right? So I think in that case, the B2B product managers might have a difficult time, but the products like a Mixpanel or a Canva, where the money is organization, I think this kind of challenge should not come. Or if you again go to the third level, like where the products like HR tools or which is basically B2B2C, right? They are selling it to one organization, and then all the employees within the organization are using that particular type of product, right? So I think in that scenario, though you are into B2B kind of space, but you have sufficient data to track your product, to track the metrics.
Right. Amit. Yeah.
Lavshitij, I had an ask on this. Could it also be that B2B product companies are building their own tracking tools for their customers? Now, what happens is sometimes when you build your own tracking tools for the customers, it becomes a separate product in itself. Also, at a certain point, that product is inapt to keep up to pace to the original product. And then you start seeing lag in access to data, and then you start seeing lag in getting the right data. Do you think that more adaptation of these specialized tools could help us get better data control? Like you spoke of various tools. Could that help us?
Yeah, I think this could be possibly one of the primary reason. Because whenever you are building an internal tracking tools, I mean, that's not a primary product for you, right? So, like always, whenever you are trying to improve a particular metrics, I'm not sure how focus or what kind of resource or what kind of talent within the organization you will receive for this kind of products within the organization. And again, the requirement when it comes to the B2B clients, it varies at a drastic level. The client one may have some different kind of requirement. The client two may have a completely different type of requirement, right? And then customizing your product to track these requirement itself is a time consuming thing. And at the end of the day, then it's a product manager's job because they will not have access to any kind of data so that they can improve this solution. So rightly said, I mean, because building an internal tool is always a challenge, and then tracking a data based on this is definitely a PM's pain point.
Right. Well answered. Love Shitesh. The next question that I have is based on the barriers that we discovered. The top barriers mentioned in by Indian product managers were that they don't have access to the right data that they need and are not using the tools that basically are designed for them, right? So what are your thoughts about this trend, and how could product teams remove these barriers? Saurabh?
I think it's one of the reasons I see is that because of the org structure in the companies which exist. So analytics is usually a different department and does not report to product, at least in the organizations that I have seen or heard. And it is more often than not that the analytics team will take decision on what tools they would want to invest in or would want to get. So what happens is that they often take into needs of the sales and the marketing team and not the product team, because the product team needs for a data tool is a lot more complex. They need to track user journeys, need to double click a lot on the data points. So what usually happens is product managers have to rely a lot on the SQL querying system. And I'll again go back to the point which I was saying, is that a lot of us product managers do not come from a very technical background and do not know, we know very basic SQL queries and not go into the double click, triple clicks of there. And that these two factors combining in, I think leads to why product managers often complain that we do not have the right data to look at without an analyst supporting us.
All right. And do you see this trend being uh, changing in the near future, or you see that this will continue like this?
I think in India, we have access to great talent in the analytics domain, which is not as expensive as in the global market. And I see that this is going to continue, and product managers, at least in the short term, will not have enough motivation to learn these tools to be able to write complex queries and still rely on the analytics team, at least in the short to medium term.
Dilip, Serene, you have any views that you feel that this trend is changing, where people, product managers are finding ways to find the right data, getting the access to the right tools, or is it that they will continue to follow in the same way that they are doing right now?
I think what's happening is as platforms are becoming more complex, the needs are kind of becoming more complex. Teams are realizing that there is a dead end, right? To somehow break fixing what you have into sort of your domain, and we constantly see that. Then it's about the decision which probably Lavsatich pointed out, right, where he said you focus on your core business or you focus on doing like other parts basically, but and deviate from what your core is. And that's where I feel like I feel like constantly businesses realize the value in having solutions which actually address that and solve for their, actually focus on their core, and you have other technologies solving for all the affiliated needs. And we see product teams having more and more say constantly. They are able to collaborate better with analytics teams and be a part of that decision-making process. And today we see, as we speak to our clients as well, we have both analytics and product teams coming together to make that decision and evaluate which platforms work for them, and then kind of build their growth stack. So yeah, that's what we're seeing from our end.
Great. So before we go to some concluding questions, I want to take some of the questions that I have received on the Q&A from the audience. So Yatish Chandra has asked, what do you mean by doing the actual job of product managers? Difference between product owners and product managers, what is that? And because the definition of product managers very drastically differ from company to company, B2C to B2B, and he's basically saying, what's the difference? Basically, the question is, what's the difference between what a product owner does versus a product manager kind of do? Lavsatish, you want to take? Amit?
Okay. So, yeah, well, this is a bit of off questions, we are looking at metrics, but then Yatish, your question is very valid. We are having a lot of roles. Companies are calling people product owner, product managers. I would say product management is a mindset. There are three things which a product manager does. The first is taking decisions. Okay. If you are a product manager day in and day out with your developers, with your analytics, with your analytics team, with your customers, you must be able to take decisions. And that's where uh, analytics tools help you in, help you a lot. And that's the reason we say, what are the metrics we want to measure? So if you are able to take decisions, give those decisions to your team, you're a product manager. Uh, Not probably. If the second thing which a product manager must should do is ask a lot of why questions. If you are able to ask your customers why they want what they want, you are a product manager. Ask that to your engineering team as well. You are a product manager. And then the third thing is what you are building. You must be able to look at that. Product owner is a role in a development methodology called agile. uh, Most of the product owner, you could be a product manager and doing waterfall, you could be a product manager and doing any other way of development, or you could not even be in development, you could be a product manager marketing. But product owner is a very specific role, which is in the agile terminology, they say that it's an outward facing role when you're doing scrum or safe or another way of doing things.
Okay.
I hope I'm able to answer.
Sure. So a similar question. Yeah, Lakshit.
So, yeah, Naveen. So, I mean, I would like to add here. I mean, though the product manager's roles vary from organization to organization or type of business to type of business, uh, it always depends on the individual. As rightly Amit said, it's a product management is a mindset, and but at the end of the day, it depends on the individual what kind of product management role he want to perform. Right? If somebody is with managing the tech team and delivering the features, right? I mean, go ahead. I mean, this is something what you love, right? But somewhere, I believe like if as long as if you are a product manager, you should be able to identify the need of a customer. I mean, whatever role you are. I mean, so if I'm working with an organization, even if I do not, I mean, most of the times you don't have access to different level of product management, right? But if as a product manager within the organization, if I'm able to identify the need of the customer and then I'm able to deliver the objective, the business objectives. So for me, that's a fulfilling role, identifying need and then deliver the product rather than somebody, a BA or a project manager is coming and telling me that this is the need of a customer and then you deliver it. So I'll prefer the first one.
Right, right. And kind of what Amit said and you said has a lot of overlap, and it makes sense, right? The other question which we had was from Komal Sikka. She is asking if we target on acquisition or retention as our key metrics as a North Star, won't that automatically drive revenue? How does having revenue as the key metrics change the game?
So one of the point, Naveen, that I can see, I mean, because the survey result, why people have filled revenue as a choice, first choice, because definitely there are considerably a lot of product managers who have revenue as a, one of the KRAs in their job description. And that's why this is the first thing which has hit to their mind instead of the retention or activation. So it doesn't mean that these product managers are not focused on the retention, but because the revenue has a major impact or create a bigger chunk of their KRS, they have filled, while filling the survey form, they have tick marked or they have checked the revenue as a first metrics.
Right, right. Saurabh, you agree to that? Want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Revenue is a very today metric, while acquisition and retention will lead to revenue tomorrow and day after tomorrow and in the long term. Uh, So while they are correlated, but when you are tracking these metrics, those are slightly lead to slightly different outcomes. Again, I think why people track revenue is because uh, business and product is still a very fluid ecosystem, which is in the org structure. So both of them end tracking revenue, and acquisition and retention being the input metrics on how we drive revenue.
Right. So we're almost at the time. I'll take last two questions and then we'll wrap it up. So Dilip, this question, I'm clubbing two questions, one from Vikram and the other one from Shahid. And then the questions are, what are the preferred top tools used to measure metrics? And Shahid asks that how can we use Mixpanel to get maximum benefit for B2B product? What metrics to look for?
Sure. I mean, there are multiple specialized tools. There are different kinds of tools actually in the marketplace. One is where you have tools specifically focused for product teams, right? Which is where Mixpanel comes in, where that's the core. That's the singular focus of 300 plus employees of Mixpanel just delivering that. And then you have tools which kind of thread between wanting like a one stack solution, right? Which do a bit of product management, put bit of engagement, and in certain cases that kind of solves for some of the company's needs. And there are many in the marketplace actually today, as far as the list is exhaustive in that sense. And lastly, then you have like companies kind of building platforms internally. When it comes to Mixpanel, like the one thing I would say that as you are thinking about I'm sure there are many startups on the call as well. We really love to have like organizations who are just starting to experience Mixpanel, and you should actually you can just sign up for a demo account without any charge and actually check out what Mixpanel can deliver. So that would be a short answer to that question.
Right. I'll just take a concluding question, one line each from all of our panelists on where do you think product management space in India is headed towards? Starting with Saurabh.
Yeah, I think while we are evolving as product managers, our communities are becoming more stronger. And thanks to Amit, who is doing some incredible work with Product Tank, I see more of these communities cropping up, and we learn from each other. While we are a first generation of product managers in India, we'll continue to learn and cross-pollinate our learnings and be able to deliver better.
Great. Lavshitej? You're on mute, Lavshitej.
Yeah. So I can say a lot of product managers may soon turn into the future CEOs. I mean, most of us, we say the product managers are the CEO of a product, but so I have been a co-founder of a startup in the past, and then I've also been a product manager. So I can see, though these roles are overlapping, but being a CEO of an organization is completely a different thing, and being leading a product is a completely different thing, right? Because when you are CEO of the organization, you also need to continuously look after the legal and 10 other aspect as well. I mean, instead of focusing just on the product. But once you are product managers, I think you are ready to start up. I mean, right. I think this should be ideal next path. I mean, even if you are only 5 to 7 years of experience, I think it's a good time to give a try for at least 2 to 3 years into the entrepreneurship.
Right. Amit, last comments from your side, and then, yeah.
Well, I would like to tread cautiously on where product management is growing. Product managers need to prove a few good P&Ls, need to prove a few good results on their product on a year-on-year basis. These are, as Saurabh rightly said, these are early days for product managers. For product managers to really achieve its true north, and we are looking at everywhere. We don't have all the right tools, but we must look out for tools. We must look out for metrics which really we need to measure so that we can have good P&L statements. We can have a good year-on-year growth for our products. If that happens, the industry would realize the importance of having a good product manager, and they would lap up to us. And yes, that would help some of us become CEOs and others. If we do not look at those data, and I'm very happy in the Indian ecosystem that we are tracking revenues. So yes, we are poised for growth. Those would be my
Great.
comments.
Great. I think I thoroughly enjoyed moderating this panel discussion, and I see a very engaging conversation happening on the chat as well. So it's really nice to see this discussion taking this shape. But then, due to shortage of time, we have to cut it over here. But then I'm thankful to all the panelists, Lav Shetish, Saurabh, Amit, Dilip. Thanks for chiming in. With that, I hand it over to Dilip.
Thank you, everyone. It's quite interesting because we transformed a small idea, which was like metrics that matter to India, by India, and for India. And just to build something like this has taken months of effort and collaboration. And surely this would not have been possible without Amit, Naveen, and Satyavati from the Product Tank Pune team. I'm also extremely grateful to our panelists, Saurabh, Lav Sitij, and Amit, for sparing their time and sharing their perspective. Lastly, I want to thank all the participants for being with us, and thank you for slightly extending this evening. And it's been a pleasure hosting you and wishing everyone a great weekend.